The wind howled through the broken metal fences of the colony. Night had fallen on the edge of Vespara 9, a quiet mining outpost far from Earth. Most humans had already gone inside their shelters, locking doors, checking oxygen filters, and waiting for the long dark to pass. Inside a small, half-frozen cabin stood Ethan Cole, the only mechanic who hadn't left the outpost yet. He was tired, lonely, and surrounded by silence. The heater flickered weakly, casting orange light over the walls filled with old photographs, memories of a life that no longer existed. Earth felt like a dream now. Vespara 9 was cold, empty, and dangerous. Outside, the storm grew stronger. The wind carried dust and shards of glass like ice that cut through anything soft. Ethan adjusted the metal shutters when he heard it. Knock, knock. He froze. No one should be outside at this hour. The colony sensors warned everyone to stay indoors. The nights here weren't safe. Strange shapes had been seen moving beyond the lights. Creatures born in the dark storms. Another knock. Softer this time, almost desperate. Ethan grabbed his plasma torch, slowly walked to the door, and called out, "Who's there?" No answer, just the wind. And the sound of something breathing on the other side. He hesitated. His heart pounded. Every instinct told him to stay away, but then, a voice. A soft, trembling whisper. "Please, open the door. My children." It wasn't human. The voice was gentle but carried a strange echo, like two tones speaking at once. Alien. Ethan's mind raced. He'd heard about them, the Valari, the insect humanoid species that had once fought against humans during the war 5 years ago. Most colonies still feared them. But that voice, it didn't sound like an enemy. It sounded broken. He unlocked the first bolt, then another. The door creaked open just enough for the cold air to rush in. And there she was. A tall figure wrapped in a torn silver cloak stood before him, snow and dust clinging to her skin. Her face was pale violet, eyes glowing softly with bioluminescent gold. Her breathing was weak. And in her trembling arms, 2 small alien children, shivering, their tiny mandibles clicking softly in fear. Ethan's torchlight reflected off her wet eyes. She whispered again, her voice trembling. "My name is Lyria. My mate is dead. Please, help us. My children will die in the cold." Ethan didn't move. His human instincts screamed caution. The Valari had killed humans during the war. They were hunters, predators, and once called humans meat that walks. But these weren't soldiers. They were a mother and her children. "Why come to me?" he asked, his tone hard but his eyes softening. Lyria lowered her head. "Because humans have warmth. We have none left." Her words hit something deep inside him. For years, Ethan had been cold, not from the planet, but from loneliness. He had lost his wife and son in the same war that killed Lyria's mate. The irony wasn't lost on him. He sighed, glancing at the storm outside. The sensors were flashing red. The wind screamed like living things. He opened the door wider. "Come in," he said quietly. The alien woman's eyes widened in disbelief, as if she hadn't expected mercy. She stepped inside slowly, her movements weak but graceful. The 2 alien children clung to her cloak, peering at Ethan with wide, fearful eyes. Warm air hit their faces, and a strange, sweet smell filled the room, the smell of another world. Ethan noticed their skin glowing faintly, reacting to the heat. He switched the heater to full power and motioned toward it. "Sit close," he said. Lyria nodded, lowering herself beside the fire, wrapping her arms around her children. For the first time, Ethan saw the faint trembling of relief in her shoulders. The silence that followed was heavy. Only the crackle of the heater filled the air. Finally, Lyria spoke, her golden eyes reflecting the flame. "You saved us, human. But you should not have. My kind. Do not forgive mercy." Ethan frowned, unsure what she meant. But before he could ask, a low, distant roar echoed across the storm outside. Not wind, not thunder. Something alive. Lyria's eyes widened with terror. "They found us," she whispered. Ethan's blood ran cold. He reached for his plasma torch again, but this time, it wasn't for repairs. It was for war. The sound came again, deep, distant, but growing closer. It was like metal scraping against rock, mixed with the low growl of a wild beast. Ethan turned off the lights. The cabin sank into darkness, the only glow coming from the heater's dying flame and Lyria's faint golden eyes. Her 2 children clung to her, trembling, their eyes darting toward the door. "What was that?" Ethan whispered. Lyria's breath came in short bursts. "Hunters. My people. The ones who followed us. They smell the heat. They will come." Ethan's mind raced. The Valari? He thought they were gone from this sector, wiped out or captured after the war. "Why are they after you?" he asked. Lyria hesitated, then spoke in a voice barely above a whisper. "Because I broke the code. I saved humans once. And for that, my mate was killed." The heater hummed softly, its light flickering on her face. There was no lie in her eyes, only pain. Outside, the wind screamed, carrying strange clicking sounds. Sharp and rhythmic, like communication. "They're calling to each other," Ethan realized. Lyria nodded. "They track by sound, by vibration, even your heartbeat." Ethan glanced at his pulse rifle, lying in the corner. He hadn't used it since the ceasefire. He thought the war was over. He was wrong. He moved quietly, loading the weapon, keeping his voice low. "There's a maintenance shaft under the cabin. You and the kids get in." Lyria looked at him. "And you?" "I'll hold them off," he said. Her mandibles clicked softly, a Valari sign of fear or sorrow. "You would die for strangers?" Ethan's lips tightened. "I already died once. I'm just trying to do something right this time." Before she could reply, a loud thud hit the wall. Dust rained from the ceiling. The door shook violently. Something outside scraped metal claws across the frame. The alien children whimpered. Lyria covered their mouths gently. Ethan aimed his rifle at the door, his finger hovering over the trigger. "Go, now." Lyria slid the floor panel aside, ushering her children into the dark shaft. She turned back once, her glowing eyes meeting Ethan's. "If you live," she whispered, "do not trust the dawn. They hunt even in light." Then she was gone. The cabin shook again. The metal door bent inward. Ethan stepped closer, muscles tight, eyes fixed. The lock snapped. The door flew open, and a tall, monstrous figure stepped inside. It looked like Lyria, but larger, armored, with spikes running down its back and crimson light burning in its eyes. The creature sniffed the air, growling low. "Human," it hissed, voice layered with rage. "You hide the traitor." Ethan didn't answer. He fired. Blue plasma lit up the room. The blast hit the creature square in the chest, throwing it back into the snow. The sound echoed through the night. For a second, silence. Then more shapes moved in the storm, 3, maybe 4. Shadows against the pale light. Ethan slammed the door and backed away, heart hammering. He'd bought a few seconds, no more. He looked at the heater. The power core, small but strong. A dangerous idea flashed in his mind. He yanked the core out, tearing cables loose. The lights died completely, but the core pulsed with blue light, unstable energy. He whispered to himself, "You want heat? Let's give you some." As the door began to crack again, Ethan placed the glowing core near it, pulled a spare plasma cell, and twisted the wires together. The cell began to hum. Then he ran for the shaft, jumping down and pulling the cover shut behind him. The explosion came seconds later. The cabin erupted in blue fire, the blast lighting up the storm like a second sun. The shockwave rushed through the tunnel. dust and heat burning Ethan's face. He rolled over, coughing, ears ringing. Beside him, Lyria stared in silent disbelief. He gave a weak grin. "Guess that'll warm things up." But she didn't smile. Her eyes were wide with something else, fear. "You don't understand," she whispered. "That light, it calls them all." Above them, through the cracks, Ethan saw dozens of red lights flickering in the storm eyes. Hundreds of them. The hunters were coming. The tunnel was narrow, hot, and full of smoke. The explosion above had shaken the ground so hard that dust and ash now rained from the ceiling. Ethan could barely see through the thick haze. His chest burned with every breath. Behind him, the faint glow of Lyria's eyes flickered like two golden lamps in the dark. Her children clung to her, their bodies trembling with exhaustion. Ethan stopped and turned back. "You all right?" he whispered. Lyria nodded, though her breath came in heavy gasps. "We must move. The tunnels lead to the old water pumps. If we reach them, the scent will fade." Ethan frowned. "Scent? They can smell fear," she said quietly. "And heat. Even from miles away." Ethan cursed under his breath. "Great. Guess I'm the biggest beacon here." Despite the fear and smoke, Lyria made a small sound, almost like a laugh. It surprised both of them. For a moment, silence returned, soft, fragile human silence. Then, from above, came the sound of claws scraping metal. The hunters were already tearing through the remains of the cabin. The echo traveled down the shaft like thunder. Ethan motioned for her to keep going. "Move." They crawled through the dark, one careful step at a time. The tunnel twisted and dropped into deeper levels of the colony's old mining network, abandoned years ago after toxic gas leaks. "Wait," Ethan whispered. "These tunnels, they're full of methane. One spark and we're all gone." Lyria tilted her head. "Then pray your human weapons stay silent." The air grew colder. Faint blue crystals clung to the walls, frozen gas formations that pulsed softly like veins of light. Lyria's skin shimmered in their glow. Her children's breathing steadied, comforted by the cold. "How did you survive this long?" Ethan asked quietly as they walked. She didn't answer right away. "Because I had to," she finally said. "My mate was a warrior. He died protecting a human ship during the ceasefire. The others called it betrayal. They hunted us ever since." Ethan slowed, watching her face in the dim light. "He saved humans?" Lyria nodded. "Yes, and now I run for the same reason, because I saw mercy once. And it changed me." Something in her words pierced him. He looked away, trying to hide the emotion rising in his throat. "I lost my family in that same war," he said quietly. "To your kind." Lyria stopped walking. Her golden eyes met his, soft and heavy with regret. "Then maybe. We both carry ghosts." Before Ethan could reply, a faint sound echoed from the darkness behind them, a soft metallic ring. Like claws tapping stone, Ethan's instincts kicked in. "They're in the tunnels." Lyria's body stiffened. Too soon. They came too soon. Ethan scanned the shadows. The passage split ahead. One path sloped upward, the other downward into deeper black. "Which way?" he hissed. Lyria hesitated. "Up leads to light, but also open ground. Down leads to the core, old machines, heat vents, and silence." Ethan made the choice fast. "Down. Light will only make us targets." They slipped into the lower tunnel just as the first hunter appeared behind them, its red eyes glowing through the dust. The creature screeched, a sound that shook the air itself. Ethan turned and fired one quick plasma burst, not to hit, but to collapse the tunnel wall. Rocks fell, blocking the path with a thunderous crash. "Go!" he shouted. They ran until the echoes faded. The lower tunnels opened into a vast underground chamber filled with old mining rigs. Broken robots hung from the ceiling like metal skeletons. In the middle, a faint pool of blue light shimmered, a geothermal vent still alive. Lyria's children ran toward it instinctively, their skin glowing brighter in its warmth. She followed, kneeling beside them, relief softening her alien features. Ethan watched her quietly. For the first time, he didn't see an alien. He saw a mother, a survivor. But his calm didn't last. The ground vibrated again, a distant, steady rhythm. Not from behind this time, but below. Lyre froze. Her voice was barely a whisper. The deep ones. They wake. Ethan gripped his weapon tighter. What the hell are the deep ones? Lyria's eyes glowed brighter, fear reflecting in their gold light. Not hunters. Not Villari. Something older. Something that sleeps beneath this world. Ethan took a slow breath, staring into the dark water of the vent. It rippled once, as if something massive was moving far below. And then, faintly, a voice echoed up through the heat. Not human. Not Villari. But calling his name, Ethan. The voice echoed again, faint, broken, yet unmistakably calling his name. Ethan. Ethan froze. His skin went cold despite the heat of the geothermal vent. The sound came from the glowing pool, a deep, rhythmic pulse beneath the surface, like a heartbeat buried in the planet itself. Lyria grabbed his arm, her claws trembling. Do not answer. It listens when you do. He looked at her, startled. What do you mean it? Lyria's golden eyes flicked toward the vent. The deep ones. We do not have a name for them. They live below the crust, old energy, old memory. They speak with voices of the dead. Ethan frowned, staring into the shimmering pool. Voices of the dead? That was my name. How would it know that? Lyria shook her head. Because it remembers everything that ever touched this world, human, Villari, even the stars. You should not have come down here. The children pressed close to her legs, frightened by the sound that still whispered through the steam. The pool's light grew brighter, now pulsing in slow, glowing waves. Ethan felt his pulse sync with it, like invisible fingers pressing against his heart. Feels like it's calling, he said quietly. Like it knows me. Lyria hissed softly, a sound of warning. It knows everyone. That is how it feeds, on memory, on guilt. Her words hit him harder than he expected. Guilt, that was something he knew too well. He had lost his family because of the war. Because humans had invaded Villari's space for minerals. Because men like him had built the weapons. The voice came again, softer now, almost human. You left them, Ethan. He staggered back. The sound was clearer this time, the voice of his wife. Myra. It couldn't be real. She was gone, Mira? He whispered. You moved between him and the pool. No, that is not her. It wears her voice. It wants to enter your mind. He looked at her, torn between disbelief and horror. How do you know? Her eyes flickered with old pain. Because it used my mate's voice once. Ethan fell silent. The air around them vibrated faintly, and the metallic bones hanging from the ceiling began to sway as if moved by invisible hands. Suddenly, the sound of claws echoed again. The hunters had found another way into the chamber. Their red eyes appeared in the shadows above the ledge. Lyria turned toward them, raising her claws defensively. They follow the scent. The deep one's energy hides nothing. Ethan aimed his rifle. Then we fight. But before he could fire, the pool exploded in a burst of blue light. A wave of steam and liquid fire shot upward, knocking everyone off their feet. From within the light rose a shape, tall, translucent, and shifting like liquid glass. Its body was neither solid nor vapor, its face a blur of 1,000 forms, human, alien, something else entirely. When it spoke, its voice was all voices at once. You both came from the stars. And yet, you kill what you could become. Lyria hissed, shielding her children. Do not listen. But Ethan couldn't look away. What are you? He asked. The creature's eyes flickered with shifting colors. I am the first memory of this world. I was here before war, before fear. You call me planet. But I am more. Ethan took a slow step forward. Why are you calling me? The voice rippled through the air. Because you remember mercy. And she remembers betrayal. You are the same, human and Villari. Divided only by the story you tell yourselves. The hunters stopped at the edge of the light, growling, unable to move closer. Their armor began to melt under the strange radiance. They screamed, not in pain, but in terror, as if the light showed them something unbearable. The ground began to shake again. The voice grew louder. Leave this place, or be rewritten. Lyria grabbed Ethan's arm, shouting above the roar. We have to go, now. He nodded, pulling the children close as they fled into another tunnel. Behind them, the chamber collapsed, the sound of the deep one fading into a whisper. When they finally stopped to breathe, miles away, Ethan leaned against the wall, shaking. That thing. It said we're the same. Lyria's expression was unreadable. Maybe it's right, she said softly. Maybe the war was never between us. Maybe it was between truth and fear. Ethan stared at her, his voice rough. And what happens when fear wins? She looked toward the tunnel's glowing mouth, the light of dawn breaking faintly through cracks above. Then mercy dies, she said, and the universe grows cold again. The tunnel opened into pale light. After endless darkness, the faint sunrise over Vesparanine looked almost holy. The storm had passed, but the land above was scarred. Burned trees of crystal, molten dust swirling in the wind. Ethan climbed out first, pulling Lyria and her children after him. The air was thin, biting cold, but breathable. For a moment, they all stood in silence, watching the faint shimmer of two suns rising behind the jagged hills. It's beautiful, Ethan said softly. Lyria tilted her head. Beauty and danger live in the same sky, human. Never forget that. Ethan smiled weakly. Trust me. I never do. They began walking toward the colony's eastern ridge. The smoke from the explosion still rose behind them, and Ethan's cabin was nothing more than twisted metal now. The world he knew was gone. He carried one of Lyria's children, a small, fragile creature that trembled against his chest but no longer feared him. Its soft clicking sounds almost reminded him of laughter. Your young one's brave, Ethan said. Lyria's eyes softened. Brave, yes, but afraid to sleep. The dreams, they come from below. He didn't ask what she meant. After what he saw in the tunnels, he didn't want to know. But something else was wrong. His wrist, dead since the storm, had started blinking faintly. Static hissed in his ear. Then a weak signal broke through. ... Ethan Cole. Do you read? He stopped walking. That's impossible, he muttered. The signal was human, Earth Fleet code, last used during the war. Lyria looked at him, tense. Who calls you? He adjusted the dial, trying to clear the interference. It's a distress channel. Old one. Haven't heard it in years. The voice came again, clearer this time, familiar, haunting. Ethan, if you're alive, come home. He froze. It was Myra's voice again. His hands shook. No, he whispered. You're gone. I buried you. Lyria placed a hand on his arm. The deep one marked you. It knows your grief. That voice, it is no message. It is a chain. Ethan clenched his jaw, torn between logic and longing. What if it's real? Then go, she said quietly. But if you follow ghosts, you may never return. He looked out over the broken landscape. In the distance, faint towers rose from the desert, human ruins. The old research station. That's where the signal came from. Ethan made his choice. We go there. Lyria hesitated, then nodded. If that's where the truth hides, we go together. They reached the station by nightfall. The structure was half buried in sand, its walls scorched, windows shattered. The old human flag still hung from a bent pole, torn and pale under the twin moons. Inside, dust floated in the stale air. Everything smelled like rust, and memory. Ethan powered up the main console using his field battery. The lights flickered to life, and so did the logs. Rows of files appeared on the cracked screen. Human and Velari symbols mixed together. Lyria stepped closer, eyes widening. This is not human work. This is both our languages. Ethan scrolled through the data, his heart pounding. Joint research project. 2 decades before the war. He opened one file. The title read, Project Genesis, Human Velari Hybrid Communication Interface. His breath caught. The document detailed experiments between the two species, not weapons, but shared technology, memory transfer, genetic links. The scientists had tried to merge human neural patterns with Velari, empathy frequencies to create unity of thought. Lyria whispered, This was forbidden. We were told it never happened. Ethan scrolled further, then stopped cold. His name was there. Subject line, Ethan Cole, human test volunteer. He stared in disbelief. That's me. Lyria's eyes widened. Then the Deep One did not call you by mistake. It called its creation. The air in the room began to hum. The screens flickered, glowing blue, the same light from the tunnels. The voice returned, now through the speakers. Welcome home, Ethan. You were never meant to remember. The ground shook again. The machines around them powered on by themselves, old systems awakening after years of silence. Lyria grabbed his arm. What did they do to you? Ethan looked at his reflection in the glowing screen, his eyes flickering faintly with blue light. I think, he said, his voice trembling, I was part of the experiment. Maybe part of both worlds. The lights burst. Alarms screamed. And somewhere deep below, the planet began to move, like something ancient was waking again. The alarms screamed like dying voices. Red light pulsed through the broken station walls, flashing across Lyria's terrified face. The ground trembled beneath their feet as the old machines awakened. One by one, systems long dead now humming with alien energy. Ethan stood frozen in front of the glowing console. The blue light reflected in his eyes wasn't just a reflection anymore. It came from within. Ethan, Lyria said, pulling his arm, we must go. This place is waking the world itself. He didn't move. His gaze was locked on the screen where his own name flickered between human and Velari script. Ethan Cole, prototype bridge entity. What does it mean? He muttered. Lyria's voice trembled. It means you were made to connect us, human and Velari minds. A living key. The console hummed louder. The Deep One's voice filled the room, calm and endless. The experiment failed. Humanity forgot. But the code remained. Inside you. Ethan's head throbbed. Images flashed behind his eyes. Scientists in white suits, Velari engineers. A bright blue core pulsing in the center of a lab. He heard screaming, explosions, and then darkness. He fell to his knees, clutching his head. Stop it! Get out of my mind! Lyria knelt beside him, holding his face between her trembling hands. Listen to me, Ethan. You are still you. The past does not own you. But the Deep One's voice grew louder. You are the bridge. Through you, the world becomes whole again. The floor cracked open. A blue glow spread across the station, creeping up the walls like veins of light. The ground rumbled beneath them, and far away, the twin suns began to dim. Lyria's children cried out. She held them close, whispering in her native tongue soft, melodic words Ethan couldn't understand but somehow felt. He stood up slowly. His voice was steady now, even though fear shook his bones. If I'm a bridge, then I can choose what I connect. Lyria looked up at him, her golden eyes wide with both fear and hope. Then choose mercy. Before he could answer, the roof split apart with a deafening roar. A massive tendril of liquid light rose from beneath the earth, the Deep One's true form. Its surface shimmered like water and glass, ever shifting, ever alive. Faces appeared within it, human faces, Valari faces, all whispering at once. Lyria shielded her children. It's not alive like us, she said. It's memory that learned to dream. The Deep One spoke again, its voice echoing inside their skulls. Your species divided what should have been one. War was your choice. Now unity will be mine. Ethan gritted his teeth. Unity through control isn't unity. You misunderstand, the voice replied. I do not wish to rule. I wish to merge. The tendrils reached toward him. Blue light wrapped around his body like chains of smoke. He screamed as images flooded his mind. Valari soldiers burning, human ships falling, Lyria crying beside her dead mate. He felt everything. Every war. Every loss. Every death. Lyria tried to pull him back, but the energy burned her hands. Ethan, fight it! He opened his eyes, now glowing bright blue and gold, a perfect mix of both species. I can see everything, he whispered. It's showing me what we could become. No war, no hunger, no fear. Lyria's voice broke. That is not peace. That is surrender. Her words cut through the noise. Ethan clenched his fists. You're right. With one last effort, he tore the tendrils apart. The Deep One screamed, a sound like a billion voices fracturing at once. The energy around them exploded outward, hurling Ethan and Lyria across the room. When the light faded, the Deep One was silent. The station was half destroyed, its systems flickering weakly. Ethan lay on the floor, smoke rising from his clothes. Lyria crawled to him, trembling. Ethan, are you still here? He opened his eyes, still faintly glowing. I think. I stopped it. For now. She touched his face gently. You carry the link now. It will never leave you. Ethan managed a weak smile. Guess I'm stuck between two worlds. Lyria looked at him quietly, her expression unreadable. Maybe that's where peace begins. Outside, the suns began to rise again, light spilling through the shattered roof. But far beneath the planet, in the deep, something stirred, a faint hum. Like a heartbeat waiting to return. The Deep One wasn't gone. It was only waiting. The suns were rising again, painting the cracked sky in gold and fire. The ruins of the research station smoked quietly, metal still glowing from the last blast. Ethan sat among the wreckage, staring at his hands. The faint blue and gold light under his skin pulsed like veins of living fire. He could feel the hum of the planet beneath him, a heartbeat that wasn't his own. Lyria watched from a distance, her children beside her. They no longer looked afraid of him. They watched him with something else, hope. You stopped it, she said softly. The Deep One sleeps again. Ethan nodded slowly. But not forever. He could still hear it, whispering faintly inside his mind, not words this time, but feelings, hunger, curiosity, loneliness. It's not evil, he said quietly. It just wants to connect. It doesn't understand boundaries. Lyria walked closer, her cloak fluttering in the dry wind. Connection without choice is still control. He smiled weakly. Yeah, humans learned that the hard way too. They stood in silence for a while. The wind carried dust and the faint smell of burned ozone. Somewhere far away, the colony beacon flickered. a reminder that others might come soon. Maybe rescue ships. Maybe soldiers. What will you do now? Lyria asked. Ethan looked toward the horizon. If the Deep One wakes again, it will reach for both species. I'm the only one who can hear it. Maybe I can teach it what mercy is. Lyria frowned. Teach a god? He chuckled softly. Someone has to. Her children tugged at her arms, chirping softly in their native tongue. Lyria smiled, then turned back to Ethan. We can help you. The Valari will listen if they know one of their enemies carries part of their soul. Ethan looked down, his smile fading. They'll see a weapon. Same as humans did. Then let them see, she said. And let them be wrong. Her words struck something deep in him. That same spark that had made him open the door to her on that freezing night. He remembered how afraid he'd been. And how human she had looked when she begged for her children. Maybe humanity wasn't just a species. Maybe it was a choice. The ground trembled again, faint but clear. Both of them turned. From the crack in the earth where the Deep One had risen, thin blue threads of light began to spread through the desert floor. Not violent this time, gentle, like roots growing. Lyria's eyes widened. It still lives. Ethan placed a hand on the ground. No, it's listening. He closed his eyes and reached into the pulse. The world blurred. For a moment, his mind wasn't his own. It expanded outward, touching the ancient consciousness sleeping beneath VE Spara-9. He saw oceans of memory, the birth of stars, the first life on the planet. He saw humans and Valari, side by side, long before the war, not fighting, but building together. And then, a voice, calm, curious, childlike. You understand now? Ethan's thoughts echoed back. I do. Then teach me mercy, the voice said. Show me how to be more than memory. Ethan smiled faintly, tears forming in his eyes. Then start by letting go. A blinding light spread across the sky. For a heartbeat, everything went silent. No wind, no sound, only light. Then the pulse faded. The blue glow under his skin dimmed, leaving only faint traces. When Lyria opened her eyes, Ethan was standing in the center of the crater, motionless. Ethan! She shouted, running toward him. But when she reached him, he was smiling, calm, peaceful. The ground beneath them glowed faintly gold and blue, forming strange patterns, human and Valari symbols intertwined. Lyria touched his hand. It was warm, alive, but he didn't move. Her voice broke. What did you do? The air shimmered, and Ethan's voice came softly, not from his mouth, but from the wind itself. I gave it what both our worlds forgot, choice. The wind grew gentle again. The planet's hum turned soft, steady. Peaceful. Lyria looked up at the dawn, tears glistening in her golden eyes. Sleep well, Bridge of Mercy. Her children came to her side, watching the light fade into the sky. Somewhere above the clouds, something shimmered, like a bridge of light connecting the twin suns. Maybe it was only the dawn. Or maybe it was him.